Alright, for this video I wanted to cover the Schedule K-2 and K-3 domestic filing exception. Right, so K-2 and K-3s were released last year. 2021 was the first year that you could file these, and they include a variety of information on foreign source income, expenses, credits, other deductions. And so I've done a couple of tutorials on those before. I'll put the links to those below if you want to go check those out. But for this video, I want to cover the exception. So they've updated the instructions in December, which provides a little more relief in a couple of ways, right? So it's important to note that the instructions provide some exceptions for certain parts, right? And then there's the domestic filing exemption, which exempts you from having to do any of it, right? And so it's really important that we draw the distinction here. The domestic filing exception means that if you qualify, you don't have to do any of it, right? And then if you don't qualify, you might have to do the K2 and K3, but there are certain parts within K2 and K3 that maybe don't apply depending on your circumstances. So that's what the instructions have laid out. Now, it's my recommendation to always do the K2 and K3. I think we need to get in the habit of always including these now. And part of the reason is certainly because of the foreign tax credits, right? So on the K1, we don't report gross income and expense information, right? We just have the net amounts. And so that's what's very helpful about K2 and K3, at least part two, because we have to show gross amounts of income and the gross amounts of expenses being allocated to the partners, and that information is very helpful when completing the 1116 for an individual's foreign tax credit or 1118 for a corporation's foreign tax credit. Okay, so now what is the filing exemption? If you qualify, again, you don't have to do any of the K2 or K3 information. Just keep doing the 1065 or the 1120S and then the K1s. So the domestic filing exception, if you meet all four of these elements, then you don't have to do K2 with a 1065, nor do you have to provide K3s to the shareholders or the partners. So the first one is no or limited foreign activity, right? So this one sounds kind of obvious, but it's important to note because some partnerships might have a limited amount of foreign activity, and so there are exceptions which say that, well, if the amount of passive income you have is nominal or there's no foreign tax credits that might be allocated, then you could be exempt. But foreign activity means, if you have the partnership, and this is a domestic partnership that's receiving an allocation of foreign source income or expense, it has foreign tax credits. If the domestic partnership owns stock in a foreign partnership corporation, so if you have CFC issues or PFIC issues, or if you have a foreign branch or an interest in a foreign disregarded entity, right? So if you have foreign activity, you're likely going to need to do K2 and K3. If you've got no foreign activity whatsoever and you're just purely a domestic business, so domestic partnership, all U.S. clients, all U.S. operations, U.S. customers, sales, everything, right? No little foreign element in there. Then you likely meet this first piece, which is you have no foreign activity. The second important piece here is all of the direct partners or shareholders have to be U.S. persons, right? And so U.S. person isn't broadly defined in that it includes corporate shareholders, but it does include most of what we would consider a U.S. person. So the partners are individuals that are U.S. citizens or resident aliens. The partners are domestic estates, right, that have U.S. beneficiaries. They're domestic grantor or non-grantor trusts that have, again, all U.S. beneficiaries in there. Or if you have an S corporation that has just one shareholder, that would also qualify as a direct partner being a U.S. person. And then disregarded LLCs where the owner is one of these listed up here, right? So if you have a single member disregarded LLC and then that owner is a U.S. citizen, a resident alien, a domestic estate, trust, so on, right? Then you can meet this second element here. Okay, now the third piece, notice here, let me highlight just really important here. Notice how partnerships are not included, right? So if you have a domestic partnership that's a partner in the partnership that's doing the 1065, that's not going to work, right? So if you have a partnership and you're doing a 1065 and one of your partners is another partnership, then you're not going to be able to meet this element. And part of that is because you don't know who's on the other side of that lower tier partnership, and so that's why you've got to do the K2 and K3. The third element here is the notification, right? So the partnership, if it decides that, okay, we meet the first two pieces here, right? We have no foreign activity. We know who our partners are, and they're all U.S. persons that meet one of these criteria. And we decide that, well, we don't want to go through the extra task of preparing K2 and K3. They have to notify the partners that they are not going to be providing them, right? So you've got to notify your partners that the partnership is not going to be preparing K2 and K3, and K3 won't be included with the K1s, right? Now the notification must offer or at least give the partner an opportunity to request it, right? So the partnership has to notify the partner and then give the partner an opportunity to request the information. Now, if the partner gets the K1 and they decide, well, we don't need any information on the K3, then that's fine. Then you don't have to do the K3 information and provide that to the IRS or the partners. But this is the fourth element here, right? You've got to give them sufficient time to be able to respond. And if the partnership doesn't receive any of those requests at least 1 month before it intends to file the return, then it's not going to be required to do those additional schedules. So the last day that a partnership could file a return is, the extended deadline, so September 15th of every year. So basically August 15th is kind of like the last date available, right? So a partnership that extends its return and the final filing date is September 15th. If they get no requests by August 15th, then go ahead and file the 1065 as is with the K1s. You don't have to do the K2 or K3s. Okay? All right, so that covers it for this video. Hope that was helpful. Again, go check out my other tutorials on how to actually prepare the K2 and K3 if you're interested in those. And I look forward to seeing you again on the next video. Thanks.